Captain Jake Morrison stood at the window of the diplomatic vessel Horizon, watching the massive space station that housed the Galactic Council. The structure was enormous, bigger than any city on Earth. Lights flickered across its surface like stars, and ships from 100 different worlds came and went in endless streams. After 15 years of working with the Council, Jake still felt small when he looked at it. Behind him, Dr. Lisa Grant was reviewing data on her tablet. She had been Earth's chief xenobiologist since first contact, and she knew more about alien cultures than anyone else in the human fleet. Her face was tight with worry as she scrolled through reports. "Something wrong?" Jake asked. Lisa looked up. Her brown eyes were troubled. "I've been going over the colony reports again. The numbers don't make sense." "What do you mean?" "3 of our colonies were attacked by Krillax raiders in the past 2 years. New Boston, Terra Nova, and Hope Station. Over 40,000 people dead or taken as slaves." She set down her tablet. "But here's the thing. All 3 colonies were traveling along routes that the Council recommended. Routes that were supposed to be safe." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "You think the Council knew?" "I think someone needs to ask them directly." They found Ambassador Peter Cole in his quarters, preparing for the next Council session. Peter was an older man, with gray hair and kind eyes, but right now he looked tired. Being Earth's voice to the galaxy was not an easy job. "Ambassador, we need to talk about the colony attacks," Jake said. Peter sighed and sat down. "I know. I've been thinking about them too. The Council keeps saying they're investigating, but we never get answers." Lisa pulled up a holographic map. "Look at this. Every single attacked colony followed routes given to us by Council navigation. Every single one ended up in areas where Krillax pirates operate. That's not coincidence." Peter's face went pale. "Are you saying the Council deliberately sent our people into danger?" "I'm saying we need to find out." The Council chamber was a massive circular room with seats rising in tiers around a central platform. Representatives from dozens of species sat in their designated areas. Humans had a small section near the back, a reminder of their probationary status. At the center sat Council Prime Zekthor, a tall being with silver skin and 4 arms. His species, the Verath, had led the Council for 300 years. Ambassador Cole walked to the speaking platform. His voice echoed through the chamber. "Honored Council members, I come before you with a grave concern. 3 human colonies have been destroyed in the past 2 years. Over 40,000 of my people are dead or enslaved. All 3 colonies were traveling routes recommended by this Council." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Zekthor raised one hand for silence. His voice was smooth and cold. "Ambassador Cole, the Council deeply regrets the loss of human life. The Krillax raiders are a threat to all peaceful species. We are working to address this problem." Maybe nodding. "We have FT to center. In 24. We have regrets this problem. With respect, Council Prime, you've been saying that for 2 years. Meanwhile, my people keep dying." Cole's voice grew stronger. "I'm asking for a full investigation. I want to know why our colonies keep ending up in pirate-controlled space." Zekthor's expression didn't change. "Are you suggesting the Council is somehow responsible for these attacks?" "I'm suggesting that something is very wrong, and we deserve answers." Another Council member stood up. She was a Threxian, a species that looked like walking crystals. "The human colony routes were approved by our navigation committee. They followed all standard protocols. If humans chose to ignore safety warnings, that is not the Council's fault." "We followed your protocols exactly," Cole said firmly. "That's the problem." Zekthor stood, and the entire chamber fell silent. "Ambassador Cole, humanity has been part of this Council for 15 years. In that time, you have received protection, trade agreements, and technological assistance. The Council has been generous to your species. Perhaps you should show more gratitude and less suspicion." The words hit like a slap. Cole felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his voice level. My people are grateful for the Council's help, but gratitude doesn't mean we should accept the deaths of 40,000 colonists without question. This Council does not answer to probationary members, Zekthor said coldly. You may return to Earth and inform your government that continued accusations will result in a review of humanity's status. Perhaps your species is not ready for galactic community after all. The threat was clear. Cole stood there for a long moment, looking at the faces around the chamber. Some aliens looked uncomfortable. Others looked pleased. None of them spoke up for humanity. I understand, Cole said quietly. I will relay your message to Earth. Back on the horizon, Jake found the ambassador sitting alone in the observation deck. Peter looked like he had aged 10 years in one day. They're not going to help us, are they? Jake said. No, they're not. Peter stared out at the stars. Jake, I need you to do something for me. Something unofficial. Name it. I need you to dig into those colony routes. Find out who approved them, who benefited from the attacks, and why the Council doesn't want us asking questions. But you have to be careful. If they catch you, I can't protect you. Jake nodded. I'll get you answers. Over the next 3 weeks, Jake and Lisa worked in secret. They hacked into public navigation records, cross-referenced trade manifests, and interviewed survivors from the attacked colonies. What they found was worse than they imagined. The Navigation Committee had deliberately routed human colonies through dangerous space. The same committee had financial connections to slave trading operations. Records showed that human slaves were worth more on the black market than slaves from other species because humans could adapt to harsh environments. The Council hadn't just failed to protect human colonies, they had sold them out. When Jake showed Peter the evidence, the ambassador sat in silence for a long time. Finally, he spoke. They see us as livestock, useful animals to be harvested when convenient. What do we do? Lisa asked. Peter looked at them both. We go home. We tell Earth the truth, and then we decide what humanity is really worth. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. When they arrived, Peter Cole went directly to the Global Government Assembly. He presented all the evidence. He told them about the Council's threats, and he said something that would change everything. We have tried to be good members of the galactic community. We have followed their rules, accepted their guidance, and trusted their wisdom. In return, they have treated us like primitives who should be grateful for scraps from their table. They have led our people into slavery and death. The question before us now is simple. Do we bow our heads and accept this treatment? Or do we show the galaxy what humanity is truly capable of? The Assembly voted unanimously. Humanity would not bow. The reprisal was about to begin. 6 months had passed since Ambassador Cole returned to Earth with the truth about the Galactic Council. In that time, everything had changed. The Council had imposed trade sanctions on humanity, cutting off access to medical supplies and advanced technology. Several outer colonies were facing starvation. The Council's message was clear. Submit or suffer. Admiral Karen Blake stood in the war room deep beneath Earth's military headquarters. She was a tall woman, with short black hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Around her, holographic displays showed the locations of every human colony and ship. Too many of the markers were blinking red, indicating distress. Status report, she said to the officers around the table. Commander Nick Hayes stepped forward. He was a special operations leader, the kind of man who got things done quietly. 3 more colony ships were intercepted by Krillax raiders last week. 200 people taken. We tracked the ships to a holding facility on Dracon 4. And the Council's response? They say it's not their jurisdiction. They suggest we negotiate for the return of our people. Nick's jaw tightened. Dark. Tucha. The ransom they're asking would bankrupt 2 colonies. Karen slammed her fist on the table. We're not paying ransom to pirates, while the Council watches and profits. What about our special projects? A woman's voice came from the doorway. The special projects are ahead of schedule. Helen Cruz walked into the room. She was a colony organizer from the outer settlements, tough as steel and twice as smart. Every human colony is now sharing resources outside council monitoring. We've set up encrypted communication networks. They can't spy on us anymore. Good, Karen said. What about weapons development? That's my department, said Lieutenant Ben Parker, a young intelligence officer with a talent for finding secrets. He pulled up a new display. We've stopped relying on council technology completely. Our engineers have developed 3 new weapons systems, using only human innovation. The council doesn't know they exist. Karen studied the designs. How long until we can manufacture these? 4 months for the first production run. 8 months for full deployment. Make it 3 months, Karen said. We don't have time to waste. Nick spoke up. Admiral, with respect, building weapons is good. But what about our people in those slave camps? Every day we wait, more humans suffer. Karen looked at him for a long moment. You're right. What do you propose? Quote, let me take a team. We'll hit that facility on Dracon 4 and get our people out. It's defended by Krillak's military. You'd be starting a war. Nick smiled grimly. No. We'd be finishing one they started. The mission launched 3 days later. Nick led a team of 30 special operators on 3 fast ships. They traveled dark, with all systems running silent, following routes that avoided council sensors. It took them a week to reach Dracon 4. The slave facility was built into a canyon on the planet's surface. Walls of stone rose on 3 sides, and the only entrance was heavily guarded. Nick watched through binoculars from a ridge half a kilometer away. He counted at least 50 guards, maybe more inside. How do you want to play this? Asked Kate Morris, his second in command. She was a demolitions expert who could blow up a building or pick a lock with equal skill. We go in quiet, disable the guards, free our people, and leave before reinforcements arrive. And if it gets loud, then we make sure we're the loudest. They waited until deep night when the guards were tired and less alert. Nick's team split into 3 groups. One group took out the perimeter guards silently, using tranquilizer darts and hand signals. The second group disabled the facility's communication systems. Nick led the third group directly to the holding cells. The slaves were kept in underground chambers, locked behind energy barriers. Nick saw humans, but also members of other species. All of them looked thin and exhausted. A young woman pressed against the barrier when she saw him. Are you really here? She whispered. We're really here, Nick said. Stand back. Kate placed a small device on the barrier's control panel. It hummed for 3 seconds, then the barrier flickered and died. The prisoners rushed out, some crying, some too shocked to speak. Listen up, Nick said quietly but firmly. We're getting you out. Follow my team's instructions exactly. No noise. No running. Understood? They nodded. Nick counted heads. 214 prisoners. Mostly human, but 30 or so aliens from other species. Commander, we've got a problem. Kate's voice came through his earpiece. The aliens want to come with us. Nick looked at a tall alien with green skin and 6 eyes. The being spoke in broken English. You take us too? Please? Nick made a decision in 2 seconds. Everyone comes. I don't care what species you are. We don't leave people in chains. Getting everyone to the ships was harder than getting in. The prisoners were weak and moved slowly. One of the guards woke up and sounded an alarm before Kate could stop him. Suddenly, lights blazed across the facility and sirens wailed. Run! Nick shouted. Everyone! Move now! Krillak's soldiers poured out of barracks. Weapons fire lit up the night. Nick's team returned fire, covering the prisoners as they fled toward the ships. 2 of his soldiers went down. Wounded, but alive. Kate grabbed one and dragged him while firing her rifle one-handed. They reached the ships with Krillak's soldiers 50 meters behind them. Nick was the last one aboard. As the ships lifted off, he saw reinforcements arriving on the ground below. They had maybe 30 seconds before those ships took off after them. "Get us into orbit now," he told the pilot. "Full speed." The ships screamed upward, pushing their engines to maximum. Behind them, Krillak's fighters launched in pursuit. But Nick's ships were faster, built with new human engines that could outrun anything the Council had. Within minutes, they had jumped to hyperspace, leaving the Krillaks far behind. In the cargo bay, Nick found the prisoners huddled together. The young woman who had spoken to him earlier approached. "Thank you," she said. "They told us no one was coming. That we were forgotten." "Humanity doesn't forget," Nick said. "And we don't leave our people behind." When they returned to Earth, Admiral Blake was waiting. She looked at the freed prisoners, and then at Nick. "You started something here." "No," Nick said. "The Council started it when they sold us out. We're just finishing it." Lieutenant Parker was waiting with urgent news. He had been digging deeper into Council databases, using access codes stolen from diplomatic channels. What he found changed everything. "Admiral, you need to see this," he said, pulling up encrypted files. "The Council didn't just sell out a few colonies. This is systematic. They've been planning this for years, since before first contact. Humanity was always meant to be a slave species. They studied us, found out we can adapt to almost any environment, and decided we'd be perfect workers. The whole probationary period was just training time. They were planning to start large-scale enslavement in the next 5 years." The room went silent. Karen read through the files, her expression growing darker with each page. Finally, she looked up. "Get me the global government on the line. And someone find Ambassador Cole. We're not just fighting back anymore. We're going to burn this whole corrupt system down and build something better." Helen Cruz spoke up. "Admiral, I've been contacted by resistance groups from 12 other species. They're all oppressed by the Council in different ways. When they heard humans fought back, they wanted to know more. They're asking if we'll help them." Karen smiled coldly. "Tell them yes. Tell them humanity is done playing by the Council's rules. It's time the galaxy learned what happens when you push humans too far." The underground resistance had begun. Soon, it would become something much bigger. Something the Council would never forget. 1 year after the betrayal, the Galactic Council was confused and growing worried. Humanity had gone completely silent. All human ambassadors had been recalled. All diplomatic channels were closed. The Council's attempts to contact Earth went unanswered. Council Prime Zekthor assumed humanity had finally accepted their place in the galaxy's order. He was very wrong. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of a ship unlike any other in human history. The Shadow was a stealth vessel, part of what the military had secretly named the Ghost Fleet. The ship's hull was covered in a material that absorbed sensor scans instead of reflecting them. To any scanner in the galaxy, the Shadow simply did not exist. "Status?" Jake asked his tactical officer. Lieutenant Amy Ross checked her console. "Target confirmed. Council trade vessel, Morning Prophet, carrying goods stolen from human colonies. Crew of 40, mostly Vareth. Weapons are minimal. They're not expecting trouble." Jake nodded. "They never do." "Danny, how's the cloak holding?" Engineer Danny Walsh grinned from his station. He was a young genius who had invented the stealth technology that made the Ghost Fleet possible. "We're invisible, Captain. Their sensors show empty space. We could paint our name on their hull, and they still wouldn't see us coming." "Let's keep it professional," Jake said, but he smiled slightly. "Amy, disable their engines. No casualties, if we can avoid it." The Shadow moved silently through space, closing the distance to the Council ship. At 50 meters, Amy fired a precise burst from their electromagnetic pulse cannons. The Council ship's engines died instantly. Emergency lights flickered on across their hull. "They're dead in space," Amy reported. On the Council ship's main screen, a simple message appeared in every major galactic language. "This vessel carried goods stolen from humanity. These goods are now reclaimed. Tell the Council that humanity remembers. Before the Council crew could respond, the Shadow's tractor beam activated. It pulled specific cargo containers from the Council ship's hold. Containers that records showed contained resources taken from destroyed human colonies. Then, as silently as it had appeared, the Shadow vanished into the darkness. The Council ship's captain immediately sent a distress call. But by the time help arrived, there was no trace of the attacker. Just missing cargo and a mysterious message. This was happening all across the galaxy. The Ghost Fleet consisted of 12 stealth ships, each operating independently. They struck Council trade vessels, liberated slave facilities, and sabotaged mining operations built on stolen human territory. No one could see them coming. No one could track them. They were ghosts. Jake's next mission took him to a mining facility on the edge of Council space. The facility had been built on land that was supposed to be reserved for a human colony. Instead, the Council had sold the mining rights to a Verath company. The company was extracting rare minerals worth billions, while the human colony had been redirected to a barren world. The facility has defenses, Amy said, studying the scans. Automated turrets, patrol ships, and a garrison of about 200 guards. Can we disable it without killing anyone? Jake asked. Danny worked his console. I can hack their power grid and shut down life support in stages. They'll have to evacuate before anyone gets hurt. Bah, do it. The Shadow moved into position above the facility. Danny's fingers flew across his keyboard, breaking through the facility's security systems. He had gotten very good at this over the past year. Within 10 minutes, he had complete control of the facility's operations. Shutting down environmental systems in the sleeping quarters first, Danny said. That'll wake everyone up without hurting them. Then I'll shut down the command center, then processing. They'll have about 30 minutes to evacuate before things get dangerous. Inside the facility, alarms started blaring. Workers woke up to find their air recyclers failing. The facility commander tried to override the systems, but nothing worked. Emergency protocols kicked in, and evacuation orders went out. Jake watched as the workers rushed to escape ships. Some looked angry, others scared, but they were alive, and that mattered. When the last ship cleared the facility, Danny set the mining equipment to overload. Explosions rippled through the complex, destroying machinery but leaving the structure mostly intact. Another message appeared on every screen in the facility's network. This land belongs to humanity. Build your mines elsewhere. By the time Council military arrived, the Shadow was gone. All they found was a destroyed mining operation, and more questions than answers. Council Prime Zekthor called an emergency session. The Council chamber was filled with angry voices. Representatives from a dozen species demanded answers. How can ships simply disappear? Demanded a Threxian counselor. We have the best sensors in the galaxy. 7 trade vessels destroyed in the past month, another representative said. 4 mining facilities sabotaged. 3 slave camps raided and emptied. And we have no idea who's doing this. Zekthor held up his hands for silence. We know who is responsible. The humans. They're striking back for our sanctions. But how? The question came from a dozen voices at once. Human technology is primitive. They shouldn't be capable of this. 5. 5-1. 5-1. 5-1. A military commander stood up. He was a Krillax general, covered in ceremonial armor. I have reviewed every incident. The attacks are surgical, precise, and coordinated. This is not random violence. This is a military campaign, and it's working. We've lost billions in resources and trade. Then find them, Zekthor shouted. Send our entire fleet if necessary. Humanity must be stopped. We've tried, the general said quietly. We can't find them. It's like they're ghosts. The name spread quickly through the galaxy. The Ghost Fleet. Some species thought it was just a rumor. Others had seen the evidence. Ships that vanished without a trace. facilities destroyed by invisible attackers. And everywhere the ghosts went, they left the same message. Humanity remembers. But the Ghost Fleet wasn't just attacking Council assets. They were freeing slaves from every species, not just humans. Word spread through the slave trade networks. If you could get a message to the humans, they would come. They would save you. Jake found this out during a mission to intercept a slave transport. When they opened the cargo holds, they found not just humans, but members of 6 different species, all chained together. An elderly alien with purple skin looked at Jake with tears in his eyes. You came. Everyone said the humans would come if we asked. I didn't believe it. But you came. We came, Jake said, breaking the alien's chains. And we're not done yet. No one deserves to be a slave. Jake. As they freed the prisoners, Amy pulled Jake aside. Captain, we're getting messages from across the galaxy. Other oppressed species are asking for help. There are hundreds of facilities like this. We can't save everyone. Jake looked at the freed slaves, at the hope in their eyes. Maybe we can't save everyone. But we can show the galaxy that someone is willing to fight. That the Council isn't all-powerful. That's worth something. Back on Earth, Admiral Blake was coordinating with the other Ghost Fleet ships. Reports came in daily. The Council was in chaos. Trade had dropped by 40%. 6 member species were questioning their loyalty to the Council. Slaves across the galaxy were rebelling. Inspired by the ghost stories, Helen Cruz brought news from the resistance networks. Admiral, we've been contacted by 17 different species. They want to join the fight. Some of them have resources, ships, even intelligence about Council operations. Karen studied the star charts on her display. The Council wanted to use humanity as slaves because we're adaptable and resilient. They forgot that those same qualities make us dangerous when pushed too far. Tell our allies that we welcome their help. It's time to show the Council what real cooperation looks like. Lieutenant Parker burst into the room with urgent news. Admiral, the Council is sending a war fleet to Earth. 300 ships. They're not trying to hide it. This is meant to be intimidation. Karen smiled coldly. Let them come. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity has really been building. The ghosts were about to become very, very real. The Council war fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system 18 months after humanity had gone silent. 300 ships, representing the military might of a dozen species, all commanded by Council Prime Zekthor himself. He had decided to lead this mission personally. Humanity needed to learn respect, and he would teach them. Send a message to Earth, Zekthor ordered from his flagship. Tell them they have 1 hour to surrender all Ghost Fleet vessels and commanders, or we will begin orbital bombardment of their military facilities. The message was sent. The Council fleet waited, weapons charged and ready. 59 minutes passed with no response. Then, at the 1 hour mark, every screen on every Council ship lit up with the same image. Senator Julia Martinez, leader of Earth's united government, sat at a desk with the Earth flag behind her. Council Prime Zekthor, she said calmly. You have brought a war fleet to my home. You demand we surrender. Before I respond, I want you to look at your sensor screens very carefully. On the bridge of his flagship, Zekthor frowned. His sensor officer checked the displays, and then went very pale. Sir, we have new contacts. Many new contacts. How many? Zekthor demanded. 500 ships, sir. They just appeared. They were somehow hidden from our sensors. They're surrounding us. Zekthor stared at the tactical display. 500 human warships had materialized in a perfect sphere around his fleet. Ships that shouldn't exist, built with technology humans weren't supposed to have. He had brought 300 ships to intimidate Earth. Earth had responded with 500. Senator Martinez continued speaking. For 18 months, you have wondered where the Ghost Fleet came from. You have asked how primitive humanity could challenge the mighty Galactic Council. Allow me to show you. While you cut off our trade and tried to starve our colonies, we built. While you mocked our technology, we innovated. While you assumed we would bow, we prepared. You made a critical mistake, Council Prime. You underestimated humanity. Admiral Karen Blake appeared on screen next to the Senator. Council Fleet. This is Admiral Blake of Earth Defense. Your ships are surrounded and outgunned. We have no desire for bloodshed. Power down your weapons and withdraw from our system. This is your only warning. Zekthor's command staff looked at him nervously. A young tactical officer spoke quietly. Sir, they have us completely surrounded. If they fire, we cannot defend ourselves effectively. Casualties would be catastrophic. We came here to intimidate them, Zekthor said through clenched teeth. If we retreat, we look weak. If we stay, we die, the officer said. Sir, please. Many of these ships have families. For a long moment, Zekthor said nothing. Then he slumped in his chair. Stand down all weapons. Set course back to Council space. The Council fleet turned and left without firing a single shot. It was the most humiliating moment in Council history. 3 days later, Ambassador Peter Cole walked into the Galactic Council chamber for the first time in 18 months. But he didn't walk alone. Behind him came Admiral Blake, in full military uniform. Beside him walked Senator Martinez. And with them came something that made every council member freeze in shock. Representatives from 23 different species, all carrying evidence files, all demanding justice. The chamber erupted in chaos. Council members shouted questions. Guards moved forward, uncertain what to do. Zekthor stood, his face showing genuine fear for the first time. You have no authority to bring these people here, he shouted. I have every authority, Peter said calmly. These representatives come from species that the Council has oppressed, enslaved, and exploited. They're here because humanity gave them something you never did. Hope. And Senator Martinez walked to the central platform. Her voice carried through the chamber, clear and strong. For centuries, the Galactic Council has presented itself as a force for peace and cooperation. But the truth is different. The Council is built on corruption, slavery, and exploitation. You prey on smaller species, using them as labor and resources while claiming to protect them. She activated a holographic display. Files appeared in the air above the chamber. Hundreds of them. Thousands of them. These are the crimes of the Galactic Council. Documented proof of slave trading, forced labor, theft of resources, and deliberate genocide. Every file verified. Every fact checked. The evidence is overwhelming. A representative from the Velar species stood up. She was small and covered in blue fur, and her voice shook with emotion. The Council told us we needed their protection. They said without them, we would be destroyed by raiders. Then, we discovered the Council created the raiders. They used them to scare us into surrendering our independence. When we found out, they killed our leaders and replaced them with puppets. Another representative stood, this one from a species called the Nyx. The Council takes 30% of everything our worlds produce. They call it a cooperation tax. But we receive nothing in return. Our people starve while Council members grow rich. One by one, representatives stood and told their stories. The chamber filled with accounts of Council crimes. And through it all, the evidence files kept appearing, kept multiplying, kept proving every accusation. Councillor Vexana, the only council member who had ever shown sympathy for oppressed species, stood slowly. She was old, covered in scales that had faded with age. Her voice carried weight that even Zekthor could not ignore. I have served on this council for 40 years, she said. I have watched it become corrupt. I have seen good leaders replaced with greedy ones. I have tried to change things from within. I failed. But humanity has not failed. They have done what I could not. They have exposed the truth. She turned to Zekthor. Council Prime, you and the Inner Circle have committed crimes against sapient life. You must answer for them. Zekthor looked around the chamber. He saw fear in many faces, anger in others, but no one was defending him. No one was standing up to support the Council's actions. You cannot do this, he said. But his voice lacked strength. The Council has existed for 500 years. You cannot simply tear it down. Peter stepped forward. We're not tearing it down. We're rebuilding it. The Council you created is finished. What comes next will be better. It will be fair, and it will represent all species equally, not just the powerful ones. Admiral Blake spoke up. As of now, 6 Council members are under arrest, including you. Council Prime Zekthor. You will stand trial for your crimes. The evidence against you is overwhelming, and this time, justice will actually be served. Guards moved forward, but they were human guards, brought from Earth. They took Zekthor and 5 other council leaders into custody. The chamber erupted again, but this time, it was different. This time, there was relief in the voices, hope in the faces. Helen Cruz, representing the colony networks, addressed the chamber. For those species who want to build something new, humanity offers partnership. Real partnership, where all voices matter. For those who want to continue supporting the old ways, you're welcome to try. But you'll do it without humanity's cooperation, and without the cooperation of 24 other species who are done being exploited. Lieutenant Parker released the final set of files. These showed financial records, proof of where the Council's stolen wealth had gone. Trillions of credits. In hidden accounts. Resources hoarded while colonies starved. The evidence was damning and complete. Senator Martinez delivered the final message. The galaxy stands at a crossroads. You can continue with corruption and oppression, or you can join us in building something better. The choice is yours. But understand this. Humanity came to the stars seeking friendship. You taught us we needed to be ready for war. We learned that lesson well. We hope you've learned something too. As the session ended and council members filed out in shock, Peter found Vexizana waiting for him. The old counselor looked tired, but satisfied. Thank you, she said, for having the courage to do what needed to be done. Thank you for standing with us when it mattered, Peter replied. She smiled. Humanity has a saying, I believe. About pushing too far? Never push a human too far, Peter said. Because we push back harder. The galaxy will not forget this day. Vexana said. The Council's arrogance has ended. The question now is, what will rise in its place? Peter looked out at the stars visible through the chamber windows. Something better. Something fair. Something worth believing in. 2 years after the betrayal that nearly destroyed them, humanity stood at the center of a new galactic order. The old Galactic Council had been dissolved. In its place rose the reformed Galactic Assembly, built on principles of equality, transparency, and justice. The galaxy was changing, and humanity had shown them how. Captain Jake Morrison walked through the halls of the new assembly station. It was smaller than the old council station. Deliberately so. Dr. Lisa Grant had helped design it based on research into every member species' needs. There were no massive chambers meant to intimidate. Instead, there were meeting rooms, where representatives could talk as equals. Jake found Lisa in one of these rooms, working with a team of aliens from 7 different species. They were drafting the Assembly's constitution, making sure every voice was heard. How's it going? Jake asked. Lisa looked up and smiled. She looked tired but happy. They have good ideas. Who knew? The sarcasm was gentle, and several aliens in the room made sounds that Jake had learned were laughter. A small alien with green skin approached them. Her name was Pix, and she represented a species called the Velar. Captain Morrison, I wanted to thank you again. My people are free because of the Ghost Fleet. Because humanity decided to fight, not just for yourselves, but for all of us. Jake felt uncomfortable with the praise, as he always did. We just did what was right. Anyone would have done the same. No, Pix said firmly. The Council had power for 500 years. No one challenged them until humans came. You showed us that power can be defeated if enough people stand together. The trial of the former Council leaders had concluded 3 months earlier. Zekthor and 6 others were found guilty of crimes against sapient species. They were sentenced to life imprisonment. Their wealth stripped away and distributed to the species they had harmed. It wasn't perfect justice, but it was real justice. That mattered. Senator Julia Martinez stood before the first official session of the reformed Galactic Assembly. Representatives from 83 species filled the chamber. Some had been part of the old council. Others were new, species that had never been allowed representation before. All of them were equal now. Welcome to the first session of the Reformed Galactic Assembly, Julia said. 2 years ago, I stood in a different chamber and exposed the crimes of those who claimed to lead us. Today, we begin the work of building something better. This will not be easy. We come from different worlds, different cultures, different ways of thinking. We will disagree. We will argue. But we will do it as equals, with respect for each other's voices. Admiral Karen Blake watched from the observation gallery. Beside her sat Commander Nick Hayes, now promoted to colonel for his work with the Ghost Fleet. Helen Cruz sat on her other side, representing the colony networks that had helped coordinate humanity's resistance. Never thought I'd see the day, Nick said quietly. A galaxy run on something other than fear and greed. Don't get too comfortable, Karen replied. There are still species out there that miss the old ways. Groups that profited from slavery and exploitation. They'll try to regain power. We have to stay ready, but we don't have to stand alone anymore, Helen said. That's the difference. Before, it was humanity against the Council. Now, it's everyone who believes in justice. Standing together, Karen nodded. The Ghost Fleet taught us something. We're stronger when we help others, not just ourselves. That's a lesson we can't forget. Quote, Captain Sophie Chen stood on the bridge of the Liberty, humanity's new flagship. It was the largest ship humans had ever built. Designed not for war, but for protection. Behind her flew ships from a dozen different species. The first joint patrol force in galactic history. All ships report ready, her communications officer said. Sophie opened a channel to the fleet. This is Captain Chen of the Liberty. Today marks the first patrol of the Assembly Defense Force. We're not here to conquer or intimidate. We're here to protect trade routes and respond to distress calls, no matter what species sends them. We're proving that cooperation works better than domination. Let's show the galaxy what real peacekeeping looks like. The fleet moved out together, human ships flying alongside Velar ships, Nyx ships, and even reformed Verath ships. Former enemies working together because they had found something better to work toward. Jake found himself back on Earth for the first time in 6 months. He visited a school in his hometown, where children learned about the events that had changed the galaxy. The teacher, an older woman named Mrs. Patterson, had asked him to speak to her class. Class, this is Captain Morrison, she said. He commanded one of the Ghost Fleet ships. The children looked at him with wide eyes. One small boy raised his hand. Did you really fight the whole Galactic Council? Jake smiled. I didn't fight them alone. Thousands of people worked together. Soldiers, engineers, diplomats, colony workers, even people from other species who were brave enough to stand up for what was right. That's the real story. Not one hero, but everyone choosing to do the right thing. A girl in the back raised her hand. My dad says the council was wrong to treat us like slaves, but he also says we shouldn't have fought back. He says violence is never the answer. My dad 4020 Foal. Number 4. My dad 42-6. Jake thought carefully before responding. Your dad is partly right. Violence should always be the last choice. We tried talking. We tried following the rules. But when someone is hurting people and won't stop, sometimes you have to defend yourself and others. The important thing is, we only used as much force as we needed. We didn't try to destroy the council species. We didn't become the bullies. We fought for justice, not revenge. There's a difference. Mrs. Patterson spoke up. Captain Morrison is right. The lesson here isn't that fighting is good. The lesson is that standing up to injustice is necessary, and that when you fight the right way. You protect the innocent. You give your enemies a chance to change. And when you win, you build something better, not something worse. Jake left the school feeling hopeful. The children growing up now would live in a galaxy where species worked together. They wouldn't have to fight the same battles. That was worth everything. Ambassador Peter Cole stood at the window of his office, looking out at the stars. Lisa Grant joined him, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Thinking about the past? She asked. And the future? Peter said. 2 years ago, I thought we might be headed for a war that would destroy us. Instead, we changed the galaxy. We paid a price, Lisa reminded him. 40,000 people dead in the first attacks. Hundreds more in the fighting. That's not a small cost. No. Peter agreed. It's not. But their sacrifice meant something. They died because the council saw humanity as livestock. Now, because we fought back. Billions of people across the galaxy have freedom they didn't have before. Our people died for something bigger than themselves. Lisa sipped her coffee. Do you think it'll last? The assembly? The cooperation? Peter was quiet for a moment. I think it'll last as long as people remember why we built it. As long as we remember that justice matters more than power. That's why we're teaching the story in schools. That's why we make sure every new member of the assembly knows what happened when the old council became corrupt. We have to remember, or we'll repeat the same mistakes. Humanity certainly won't forget, Lisa said. We have a long memory for betrayal. And for friendship, Peter added. We remember who stood with us too. Vexana, the species who joined our resistance. Everyone who risked something to do the right thing. That's the future I want to build. Where people remember the good as much as the bad. Years later, in a classroom on a distant world, an old alien teacher told students about the time humanity shocked the galaxy. The students, representing 5 different species, listened carefully. The council believed humanity would make good slaves, the teacher said. They were half right. Humans are adaptable and resilient. But those qualities don't make good slaves. They make dangerous enemies and powerful allies. The council learned this too late. When they pushed humanity too far, humans pushed back so hard that the entire galactic order changed. A young alien raised a tentacle. Teacher, what happened to the humans after that? The teacher smiled. Humanity became the heart of the reformed assembly. Not because they were the strongest or the smartest, but because, when they won, they didn't seek revenge. They sought justice. They helped rebuild what the council had broken. They showed the galaxy that power should be used to protect, not to dominate. And that is why, centuries later, we still tell this story. It reminds us what happens when you underestimate someone, and what happens when you choose to be better than your enemies. And the students nodded, and the teacher knew they understood. The lesson wasn't just about humanity. It was about what any species could do when pushed to their limit, and what they should do when they finally win. In the end, that was humanity's true legacy. Not the weapons they built, or the battles they won, but the choice they made when the fighting was over. They chose to heal instead of hurt, to build instead of destroy, to create a galaxy where everyone had a voice, and the galaxy would never forget.